Okay, so we want to start exploring the box model, but I wanted to show you how I also use that basic structure template that I just made and actually use that again. So I'm going to do File, Save As, and I'm going to call this one Box Model Demo. And I'm probably just going to create a folder in this called Module 3 Practice and keep all that stuff in there. So boxmodeldemo.html, and I need to create a CSS to tie into this page, so I'll create File New, and I'll make sure that it is CSS, and then I'll do File Save As, and we're going to save it in the same Module 3 Practice, and I'm going to call this boxmodel.css, and hit Save. And so now in brackets I can see these two open files. So in here, I just need to change that to what I just called it, box-model. Okay, so if I do File Save, this should work. So if I do File Live Preview, now I should be able to see what's happening on this page. Let me just resize this so it can fit in our screen. And then resize this one. Okay. So in this box model, you should definitely read all of this content, and we're going to be working on border, margin, padding, etc. So here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and copy this text so that we just have some text to work with. Everything in your website is either considered a box, like a block level element, or an inline level element. So let me get rid of this tag real quick. Okay, so anything that stands alone, stands by itself, like a paragraph or a heading or a table or an unordered list or an ordered list, all of those things are considered block level elements because they will space themselves out. So if I hit save, you can see that heading looks separate from this paragraph. If I put a second paragraph in here, here's my second paragraph, and I save this, you'll see that again, it's a block. It separated itself with a gap from this. Now an inline level element is where I come in here and do something like italic, and let's put that after fancy way, or even like everything in HTML. Let's make that bold, B, and move that over. These are called inline level elements because they don't separate. They're actually inside of this block level element. So it's important to know this because block and inline are the two things that make up the elements in your website. And if it's a block level element, actually technically, yeah, if it's a block level element, it can be styled with a box because technically it has like an invisible box around it. And let me show you how I can show you that. So we can style anything that has a tag. So we can make all the paragraphs on our site look some kind of way. So I'm going to put P because I'm targeting the P tag, and then put my curly brace so that I can style what the P tag looks like. And I want to do background color of aqua. No, let's do pink. I do garish colors so that you can see it. See how now both paragraphs are pink? Anytime you use a P tag, it's going to put pink in it now. But as you can see, it ends up being a pink box, and it's kind of really squashed. You can see this text is just touching the edge of this. So this is where we can start messing with the box model. And you can assume that everything can have a border if it's a box. And because these are all block level elements, they can have a border. So we'll put border 1 pixel. No, let's just do a fat border. 5 pixels solid blue. So you can see that. Okay. So now you can see that everything can have a border around it. So this is the box model. It's being able to turn an element into a box basically, or show the invisible box that was around it. Now it is pretty squashed. So think of like an Amazon box that you're trying to ship something in. Whatever content is in the box, you can put padding around it, some of those little bubble poppers to protect it or to give it space from the edges of the box. That's the same thing for padding here. If we come in here and put padding 10 pixels, you can see all of a sudden you have this 10 pixels space all the way across the top, bottom, left, and right. And you can change the padding for the different sides. So let's say I do 50 pixels and 10 pixels. What this is doing is saying 50 pixels on the top and bottom and 10 pixels on the left and right. So instead, if I do 30 pixels and 2 pixels, what this is doing is 30 pixels on the top, 2 pixels on the right, 50 pixels on the bottom, and 10 pixels on the left. So think of a clock face and going clockwise. It starts top, right, bottom, left. Okay. So I'm going to go back to 10 pixels because that looks ridiculous, but just know that you can do that. Now, what padding does is padding pushes the box away from other elements. So think again about that Amazon delivery box. If it was a fragile box, maybe the FedEx guy spaces it away from the other boxes in the truck so that it doesn't get hurt. Well, same thing here. We want to put a margin of space around this. So I'm going to put a big margin so you can really see it and say margin should be 60 pixels. All right, so what this is going to do, oops, I got to close that statement. What this is going to do is all of a sudden you have 60 pixels, 60 pixels, 60 pixels, not pickles, my God. Okay. But what you see here is that it's not 120 because it collapses when they're like overlapping. So it will collapse this to just be 60 pixels between the both of them. So that's important to know too, that it's not going to be 120. It's going to just collapse those overlapping borders, so to speak. So I can fix that to 10 just to make it a little bit better. And there we go. So that's the box model. The important thing also to know about the box model is when you really get into web design, you want to know how big something is. And right now, we don't know how big this is because we haven't said how wide it should be. So let's pretend we give it a width of 500 pixels. Okay, so now this is 500 pixels wide. And you think to yourself, okay, this is 500 pixels wide. Well, technically it's not because it has to include the margin, the border, the padding, the width of 500, plus the other side with padding, border, margin. So we had 10 here for the margin, 5 here for the border, 10 for the padding. So that's 25 on this side plus 500 plus 25 on this side. So technically, the actual width of this is 550 pixels, even though up here it says 500 pixels. So that's something to keep in mind when you really start laying out your final website. So now I wouldn't actually make it look like this. This is hideous, but I would come back through here and once I had everything fixed, I'd be like, maybe I want this to be, you know, a 2 pixel. We're going to do light gray, no, let's do gray. And let's take that pink out and we can make it blue. Let's do Alice blue. All right, so there's Alice blue, has a little bit of a gray border. Padding, I kind of even want this to be like 20 pixels of padding. And I think I like the margins like that. So that's taking it all out. This is still showing you a live preview. If you really view this website, if we do file save and then open that, where is my web design? So here's my folder. And if I open this in my web browser, open with Google Chrome. Lord. Where is this? File, save, refresh. Oh, I opened up the basic structure. Sorry. Okay. So that was freaking me out. Okay. See, I do it too. All right. So you see how you can't see in the live preview what we had over here when we were messing with this. It's showing you this blue. It's trying to show you the margin area. So it's trying to do color coding to help you with that. And it has all these little borders so you can see the actual box that's around the content plus its padding and the border and all that. But this is what it actually looks like. So this is how we would design something like a sidebar for your website, is we'd put a box around it and design it nice. We can put a background image in there. We can repeat the background image so it's a subtle pattern. We can do all that kind of stuff. So just remember with the box model that everything that's a block level element is technically you can use this box model with. So the other thing we have on our page is this H1. So if we come to H1 and we wanted to do something like, let's do background color. And again, I always start garish, so I'll do red. So see how all of a sudden you're seeing that invisible box? Now let's say I just want to do some padding on the left, or margin left. I only want the margin on the left to equal what we've got down below, so 10 pixels so it lines up. But maybe I do want some padding left, just so the padding on the left has, what was it, 20 pixels again? 20 pixels. So it's kind of lining up. But maybe on the padding top, I put 6 pixels. And padding bottom, I don't know, this is turning out hideous, but 15 pixels. So maybe it looks a little bit more like that. And then maybe I can mess with the font color and all that. But you can see that it also has a box model. And I didn't want to put a border in there. And you can see that now it's not vertically centered, so that's bugging me. But now I can come back in and tweak it so that it looks the way I want it to look. But you can use that box model, those principles of padding, margin, border on all block level elements.